North Pole Hotline, Mrs. Claus here.
My family needs winter styles now. Can Santa come early?
Our workshop isn't open yet, but Old Navy is.
Old Navy?
Yup. Starting tomorrow in stores only, get 50% off all outerwear, all sweaters, and all jeans.
50% off all those styles?
Plus 40% off everything online at OldNavy.com.
What if we can't wait to wear it?
Buy online and pick up in store for free.
Who needs Santa? I've got Old Navy and OldNavy.com.
Holiday your heart out with 50% off all outerwear, sweaters, and jeans at Old Navy. Offers valid 11/24 and 11/25. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Blog Talk Radio.
Royal family, it's Queen Akaya. That's right, the queen of the Real Deal Talk Show. Current event, what matter to us? That's right, Black Lives Matter, real talk. Kings, queens, prince, princess, take your royal places. It's showtime, it's showtime, it's showtime. Royal family, it's Queen Akaya. That's right, the queen of the Real Deal Talk Show. Current event, what matter to us? That's right, Black Lives Matter, real talk. Kings, queens, prince, princess, take your royal places. It's showtime, it's showtime, it's showtime.
Greetings, Royal family. Thanks so much for tuning in to another mind-boggling, busting situation going on with the Queen at the Real Deal No BS Talk Show. That's right. We're going to be looking at the Halloween, or should I say Halloween. We're going to be looking at a little bit of Maafa. We're going to look at a little bit of the chosen people. And we're going to be still studying in ancient Kemet, where it all began, where the pyramids, where it's all written in stone, so that we, our people, can acknowledge our ancestors. So I hope you've been keeping up with the show. We've been going back and forth between Dr. Smalls, Dr. Asher Casey. We're still working on that whole trip that's going to be going on in July and in November. That's why they're not here now. They're out of the country doing their research. You know, Dr. Keswa, Asher Keswa is a brilliant man. Don't you agree? He's been doing a lot of different studies about ancient Kemet and teaching us the symbols and the signs of what we should look for and how it was explained through the European eyes, but how it should have been explained through our eyes. Meaning our Kemet ancestors, where civilization began. So I hope you've been enjoying what we've been putting out here. I guess so, because you wouldn't be keeping on listening, right? You wouldn't continue to listen, let me say it that way. Yeah, sometimes I get a little tongue-tied, but that's okay, because I'm only human, right? So remember, you could call me at area code 224-531-1131. That is pretty much any time you could reach me at that number. You can also reach me on Showtime at 516-666-9889. I don't pick out the numbers, I just read them out. So make sure you call us and give us your comment on what we've been working on. You know, as I said, we've been working on the different Halloweens, Christmas, Thanksgiving, which we call it the Big Take-Giving, because we're trying to educate our people and open our eyes to truth. No longer do we want to stay asleep. We want to continue to bring truth. This is an education. This is a university of Kemet, as my brother says, and we all are studying to find ourselves worthy. You know, Ashra Casey, King Ashra Casey, thank you, has been doing this research for over 40 years. And it's just interesting that we have him in our mix, and I hope that you are planning to go to Kemet this year in late July for 15 days. What a trip, I cannot wait. So, you know, let me jump back into what he was talking about, or try to piggyback off what we were dealing with the last.
Your African ancestral history. Now let's break it down. On this relief, brothers and sisters, you can see many concepts where they came in, as I said, like scavengers and picked different pieces. On this particular relief, you can see where the Western world, through Judaism, took a piece of a concept of the creation story from. You can see where the Greek philosophers took a concept of Greek philosophy from. And you can also see where Christianity took a concept, European Christianity took a concept from. So let's break it down. Again, carved in stone on the temple of Aset, right here on the island of Philae. It is here. It tells where the Western world literally came like scavengers and took various scenes to make up the Western world. And one of those scenes is we see that Hermes Trismegistus in Greek mythology, they literally took it from Tahuti. It is here that our ancestors had a study from the 42 books of Tahuti, representing science, law, and intelligence, who was represented as the ibis bird that you saw. We saw those little white birds that we saw come over here. So our ancestors looked at nature. We didn't worship the birds. It was an attribute of science, attribute of intelligence. Tahuti writing down the deed of our life on earth as we lived here. This is where the Western philosophical thought, Greeks took their concept of Hermes Trismegistus from Tahuti, now called Thought 2. So we see Judaism took God Khnum, fashioning man out of clay, and called him Jehovah. Notice the God Khnum fashioning man on the potter's wheel out of clay. This is where Judaism took a portion of this to make up their Genesis story with the Sanhedrins around 250 BC. From this relief right here of God fashioning man and woman on the potter's wheel. And they took other concepts of Atum from Heliopolis creation story, or the city of On, to make up their Adam as a man, when actually it was Atum the son. And we see European Christianity took from the goddess Isis and Horus and made up the European, again, let me express, the European version of Mary and Jesus. Copied directly from these reliefs right here. So you got Greek philosophy, where he took from Tahuti and called it Hermes Trismegistus. You got the Jehovah Genesis creation story and the Bible, where they took from Khnum, fashioning man on the potter's wheel out of clay, and they turned it into making man out of clay, Adam out of clay. And you also got Christianity right here showing Isis lactating or breastfeeding the holy child Horus, who was born of immaculate conception and virgin birth. 3 concepts just from this one relief. You see, all carved in stone. As you can see the line, one dark, one light, showing this temple was under the water. Nobody could come back and read this. And that's why over here, if you look against this wall right here, much of it, they tried to chisel it all out. But our ancestors wrote endlessly as though one day we would forget our story. One day we would not know who we are. One day that the only thing that we put on our genetic memory bank would be an alien, a conqueror's story. In our mind, our story would not be told. And that's why Justinian in the 6th century A.D. came in and closed these temples down, because they were copying Christianity, the theological concepts from African people. And we'll get more into that during the lecture when we have the lecture series this afternoon. I want to even go further to show you, sisters, that y'all sacred. You are goddesses. And that's the problem with the brother today, because they took that concept out of his consciousness. That's why the rap groups around there calling her the bees and stuff. Huh? Okay, now look. Isis holding the Ankh of life. We know what the Ankh of life now is, a symbol of her uterus, right? So here, again, I'll show you, showing where the holy child is coming from her womb. See the loop? That's why she's holding it, because she wants the first immaculate conception of the first holy birth is going to come from her. So she's holding the Ankh for life. Can you see it? Not too much glare there, right? That's why the Europeans, when Justinian and the boy Theodosius, they came in, they tried to chisel it out. Couldn't deal with the real immaculate conception, but they weren't talking about one immaculate conception. Our ancestors were telling us on these reliefs that every woman could produce an immaculate conception, provided that she was on the spiritual level and the man was on the spiritual level. The both of them coming together produced immaculate virgin birth, which means a clean birth. But notice they chiseled out the top part of it, because that represents the womb. But the other part they kept there to represent the crucifix. You see? That symbol that they didn't take or didn't chisel out was a symbol of the cross. They didn't chisel that one out. So this is another picture of Constantine Constantine's vision of the cross, which he is pointing to this symbol, Sec Vincius. In this symbol, we shall conquer. Through this symbol, we shall conquer.
And in this, we will definitely have these pictures up online. So I hope that you're following us. You can go to the Real Deal No BS Talk Show with Blog Talk Radio. If that's not where you're listening, you'll be able to see these actual photos or these actual reliefs, which are what we would consider the hieroglyphics that was written on the walls in Africa in what they call the pyramids. Isis, as we know, is Aset, and Egypt we know as Kemet. So we're going to continue on with our studies as well as understanding the Ankh. We're being introduced to the Ankh, and I'm sure you know what the Ankh looks like. It is a circle, which is this. It's shaped just like a woman's fallopian tube in her womb, and then at the end of it would be the penis, which is the man, because that's what life is about: reproducing life, reprocreation. That's what life is all about. If we don't reproduce other children, other people in this world, our world will end. So it's all about the man and the woman and the children, not woman and child like we were having bastard kids. No, that was not the case at all. But that's what they want us to believe. They chiseled the man completely out of the story. I mean, that was really absolutely insanity to say that we could produce children without a man. Come on now, let's not play too many fairy tale games here. We got to start telling ourselves the truth. We can't continue to lie to ourselves and wonder why our situation isn't getting any better. You know, if we're constantly praying to the wrong gods and not understanding how powerful we are, and even says it in Psalms, and I know this is not a Bible show, this is not the Bible study, but we got to bring all this and covering all the truth so that perhaps we can get a glimpse of understanding how deep the rabbit hole goes. Because apparently we're not getting it, people. We're not getting it, African people. We're still asleep. We're not awake. So I'm trying to gently awake you. I know it's very difficult to see truth when you've been lied to for so many centuries. You know, our great-grandparents were lied to. They was believing in the Jesus myth. We're all of Jesus. We're all of this understanding if we look at Horus and we look at his mother. If we look at the symbols that are carved in stone in our land where we come from, we'll understand a great deal of more than we've ever known before. Let's not be ignorant and uninformed. So we'll continue on.
Supposedly, Constantine got the cross out on the battlefield. Another picture, but now that we know that Constantine came here, now we know where, in fact, Constantine got the cross from. Huh? Right off of your ancestor temple. Has nothing to do with, this is blowing here, has nothing to do with no crucifixion or human sacrifice. Europeans corrupted it. Now, we have no understanding or meaning of what the cross means today. And chisel out the Ankh, which is a symbol for life.
So we will continue on. I want to pull up one other piece that he talks about.
You're dealing with a lot of issues here this morning. I think a lot of these issues that, if you remember, Carl, way back in 2000, I said that America has never apologized for slavery. I mean, it was a question. It was on some of the magazines, on Time and Newsweek, I think it was, or U.S. News and World Report. And it was a question mark, should America apologize for slavery? And, of course, a lot of Negro preachers came out and said, we don't need to discuss that topic right now. That's not the topic of discussion. This was also during the time of the Clintons administration. Should Clinton be the president to apologize for slavery, since some black folks were trying to say he was the first black president at that time because he put on some sunglasses and played the saxophone. But Clinton did not give an apology for slavery. President Obama, who is said to be the first black president in the White House, he equally has never apologized for slavery. So again, when someone never apologized for what they have inflicted, the harm that they've inflicted upon you, then you can always expect to get knocked down again, shot down. And this is what's happening to us as an African people, Brother Carl. When a bully knocks you down, and then, of course, if that bully never apologized, then every time you see that bully, you can expect to be knocked down again until you defend yourself. Or unless he apologized, and then you still have to be on guard because you don't know if the apologize is real. But the point is, America has never apologized for the Maafa, the slavery that has been inflicted upon African people. And we look at our children are still suffering from a slave culture in many ways. Not only our children, but we as an African people are suffering out of a slave culture. We are afflicted by this, and a lot of things is going on with our people and our children. It's coming out of the post-traumatic slave syndrome. As Joy DeGruy, I think her name is, who wrote her piece on the post-traumatic slave syndrome that whites shot down and didn't want to deal with. So these are a lot of the issues that we don't want to deal with. When we look at some of the games that our children are given, how we are games about killing each other and all these things, we're not addressing these things as a people. We're not coming together. Those of us who got economic black power in this country are not addressing coming together and addressing the issue. And then, of course, we make the victim the perpetrator. So, of course, now we talk about what our children are doing. They're doing this and they're doing that in the classroom, and not realizing the negative forces that we're up against, Brother Carl.
Right, and we'll wait and see if an apology is forthcoming and what happens.
Apology for what, slavery?
Yeah, the Spring Valley for that conference. That's all across the classroom. Well, let's
we're going to get an apology. Okay, we'll go on to the next.
Yeah, let's move on to this weekend, Halloween. And, you know, as our people participate in this, and you're going to see all especially on a Saturday night, you know, so they're going to be having all these costume parties and all of this, and they want to dress their children up as goblins. Tell us why we should probably not do this and engage in this holiday.
Well, here you had a couple of people talking about the behavior of children in the classroom, and the holiday is coming up this weekend called Halloween, is based off of all type of negative and demonic forces. This is, again, another European holiday. It's a white nationalism that they carried over from Europe that they still have and celebrate, and it goes back to the Celts in Ireland. This is something that they have in terms of what we're going through right now, in terms of, if you notice, the days are getting darker now. This is how they saw that the dead will rise. Okay, all types of evil and wicked forces start to take place. So these Celts celebrated this around the evil demonic force, or by the name of Samhain. So Samhain, during the time of Halloween, or the eve of Halloween, on October the 31st, this is where the dead would rise up, and all the wicked demonic forces would take place, and children would do all kinds of things. They were allowed to do this because the dead are now going to walk the street. And this celebration of Halloween that is carried on, that came out of Ireland and the Druids and so forth, is, you know, when you go to, I've been to Europe many times, when you go to Europe, and I go to England, and you see the foggy and cold and dreary, you get the feeling of all types of evil forces being all around you. But the celebration of this person named Samhain, who rose on Halloween night, who was called All's Hallow Eve, that the name Halloween came out of, well, everything became upside down. Chaotic forces, all type of evil and wicked demonic forces were celebrated around Samhain, or All's Hallow Eve. And whatever was normal was now abnormal. So when we look at our children, okay, we talk about our children, well, this is a celebration that all the demonic forces and negative energies that you could possibly perpetrate was allowed during this time. Now, what's important about this Celtic holiday was looked at as the New Year's Day, okay, celebrating the going into the depth of winter when everything is actually dying. But the other thing is, when I talked about everything being upside down, some of the things that would take place would be, first of all, they'd have to put a jack-o'-lantern or pumpkin, okay, with a very evil-looking face carved into the pumpkin, so the people would recognize that they're celebrating this demonic force, okay, of Samhain from the Celtics in Ireland. So when he rose from the dead, he knew that you were with him, okay. But the other thing is all negative things, everything that was normal, he turned abnormal. So when you have these Wiccas are what they refer to as witches. These witches were lesbians. And the lesbians who were witches, what they would do is make men think that they were prostitutes. So when the man went to her house thinking that he was going to get sex, well, the Wiccas tricked him and cut off his penis. So here, by cutting off his penis, this is what they pretty much made him a homosexual. The reason why the Wiccas cut off the penis is because the witches were burned. So it was the male men who burned witches at the stake because they were lesbians. So the actual broom that she's actually riding on with the wicked witch's laugh that she has, she's actually riding on the penis that was cut off by the male. So here he was going to get his treat, which is actually sex. He thought he was going to get sex, but he got tricked and got his penis cut off. So these are all types of chaotic forces, okay, of Samhain. And Samhain is still with us today in the Lord's Prayer, okay. Hallowed be thy name. They're worshiping their own devil god, Carl, in Halloween and the celebration. That's still part of the culture. And many of the holidays that's celebrated are all coming out of Europe. But when we start to talk about our ancestral stories and we start to talk about the traditions of African people, nobody wants to hear it. People come into my house and see an African mass, and I had some of my family members who were not even coming to my house because of African mass. But these same people will dress their children up in costume and all type of wicked images and demonic forces and devils and all this type of stuff and celebrate Halloween.
Well, there you have it. I was telling some people earlier in the show, I think it was last week, that we were going to do a little piece on where this whole Halloween stuff comes from. Halloween, if you really want to call it truth, and how we got our people so, we were just so confused and we just buy into anything that the Europeans sell us. Whatever it is, we buy into it. Why is that? Well, it has a whole lot to do with slavery. And that was the first piece he talked about, how even Obama and the White House didn't apologize for slavery. And why won't they apologize for it? Because if they apologize for it, they'd have to give us reparation. And so why apologize? These people aren't demanding reparation. We talk about reparation. Freedom is not free. We're not going to get what we want by just simply begging for it. We're going to have to physically take it. And in doing so, we're going to have to get ourselves together mentally, first of all, economically. Then perhaps we can figure out another way to get what is rightfully ours. I would not suggest that we go out and do something that will cause us more pain, but I think we need to be educated enough to understand what it is we're doing. Why are we teaching our kids? Why are our children acting so differently in school? Why are all our children all of a sudden, or not all, but a great number of them, are being looked at as special needs, or what is that other one they have? I can't think of the name of it right now, where all our kids are in these certain classes and all these teachers are getting all these other degrees. Special ed, excuse me. Special ed. So, all this has to do with the effects of slavery. I know most people tell me, well, get over that. We got to get over that. We got to, yeah, okay. But do we really understand that we're still in the grips of it by you telling me we got to get over it? That's the first thing somebody's going to do is harm you and then tell you, get over that. It's like a rapist rape you and then say, get over it when you prosecute them. Get over it when you get your get back. So how do you get over it? That's what I want to know. How do you just drop it when it affects our lives, our everyday life? It's a queen, I'm preaching a little bit, but that's what I do sometimes. So let us get back to Brother Asha Kwesi. He's a genius. I love this man. I love his wife. I'm so grateful that my young nephew hit me to this man. He has the Know Thyself He's out of Texas. Google him. You will be amazed in what you will find out.
Halloween, which is how we get the name Halloween. It was celebrating Samhain, who represented the Lord of the Dead of the Celtics of Ireland. And this is the origin of where Halloween came out of, and his purpose and objective was to create all type of demonic and evil forces and actually turn the world upside down during the time of the eve of his holiday, which was November 1st, but it was Halloween, the 31st, is when all these evil forces, would raise from the dead. So it was literally the night of the living dead, Carl, where the dead rose to perpetuate 12 months of evil for those who were with Samhain, and the people would perpetuate this. And so when we look at the images and the symbolic images of the Wiccas, or what is known as witches today, and the riding of the broom, that's actually a phallic symbol, where she actually cut off the penis of the trick who came to get the treat from her, but actually she tricked him and cut off his penis. This is where the name Trick, who buys prostitutes, this is where the origin of the name came from. So trick or treat. I mean, this is what it goes back to. When we look at the black widow spider, it's prevalent during Halloween because what does a black widow spider do to the male spider right after they engage? Is that a black widow spider kills the male spider.
North Pole Hotline, Mrs. Claus here.
My family needs winter styles now. Can Santa come early?
Our workshop isn't open yet, but Old Navy is.
Old Navy?
Yup, starting tomorrow in stores only. Get 50% off all outerwear, all sweaters, and all jeans.
50% off all those styles?
Plus 40% off everything online at oldnavy.com.
What if we can't wait to wear it?
Buy online and pick up in store for free.
Who needs Santa? I've got Old Navy and oldnavy.com.
Holiday your heart out with 50% off all outerwear, sweaters, and jeans at Old Navy. Offers valid 11/24 and 11/25. Exclusions apply. See store for details.